Hey everyone, this is Carrie, my week 4 discussion video. So I'm covering middle school, looking at like 6th through 8th grade, mostly from the perspective of a 6th grade group. The lesson that I found, it's part of a motivation series. I found it on Teachers Pay Teachers. It was developed by a Carol Miller, the middle school counselor. This is her storefront on Teachers Pay Teachers. She had a bundle for a motivation series, and it started with what is motivation and went all the way through procrastination and distractions in class. And so I really liked these lessons. They're really simple. They didn't require a lot of resources. It's mostly some worksheets, some common school classroom supplies, and maybe normal technology. And if you didn't have the technology, you could even print out, if you had kids sitting in groups, you could print out a master of the charts and everything for them to look at with you. And so these are fairly simple and very direct. She covers mostly with the ASCA standards, but they correlate with that the Model Comprehensive Developmental Guidance and Counseling Programs for Texas Public Schools. So these are the ASCA standards that she covers here. Mindset standards, self-confidence and ability to succeed, behavior standards. Students are demonstrating through classroom lessons, activities, small groups, applying self-motivation and self-direction to learning, and then self-management skills, demonstrating ability to assume responsibility. And that's one of the guidance and school counseling program for public schools program that model. Those goals. So I looked at the content area of motivation to achieve on that one. And then I found a couple of goals there, which was assume responsibility for own learning. And so that would be that self-management skills part here with the ASCA standards. And then identify ways they handle sources of school frustration. So here's that self-confidence part, and that self-motivation and self-direction as well, tied into those two model goals. And so this lesson, I'll kind of go over it. So this one is on classroom motivation. So in here, the students are going to identify what is important to them and what bothers them in their classrooms, and then they're going to work together to make the classroom a positive learning environment. So through these two short activities, they look at what motivates them to learn or really inhibits them from working on that self-motivation in a class. And then they'll take that application and move into, if I'm going to be more, how am I going to create a classroom environment that I can be motivated in, and it will motivate others as well. And so materials, you need just whiteboard, markers, the worksheets that are provided, and then splitting the kids up into groups as well. So they've got a warm up of what makes them enjoy the class over another, and then how do they stay motivated in classes they don't enjoy, and then they kind of talk about it. So then they'll pick up your worksheet or pick your seat worksheets, and they will they're gonna look at the motivation within the classroom. They'll take that worksheet and they'll think about where they would sit in the room, and then you can have a few volunteers kind of go through and, I would sit here. And then the students would come up to the board and write their name and claim a seat for themselves. And then they would go over why they chose that seat. And then and I'll go ahead and move down to the pages. So here's the pick your seat, right? So, pick which seat you'd want and then explain why you chose that seat. And then you would debrief with looking at this chart here of what the seat that you chose, what it says about your motivation to be successful in a classroom. And it's kind of funny. It's got some cute little phrases here to identify that. And so, and then kids can really look at that and think about what seat they chose really means. Does it really fit their personality, their motivation, or would they need to sit? And here's where they can really kind of think about, where do I really need to sit in order to learn? And so that really gets them thinking into, okay, where do I need to sit to stay motivated and do well and be successful in this classroom? And so that's that part of the lesson. And then once they do that, then they get with a group of 4 and they look at I don't like it when response cards, and they each get to fill out something that they don't like happening in a classroom. And then from that, they can pull out 4 classroom values that are important to them and relates to being motivated in that class. And so a part of this discussion, so what's the responsibility needed to take in the classroom to help with academic success? How does our classroom motivation affect our classmates? Why is having a set of classroom values important? So here's where they show these values really affect our motivation and so forth. And so that's pretty much the lesson there. It's very simple and straightforward. And then down here are the response. I don't like it when response cards, and then they pull up their classroom values from that. So this lesson is fairly simple. It can be done within, a 30-minute time period, using some timers, keeping you paced well. Some barriers to this one, I could see where socially, kids may put their name next to a seat wherever they're next to their friend. Maybe they think that it's possibly going to be their brand new seat, and but really it's not. And so they may not take it serious at first, and so that would inhibit the impact on the impact of the lesson. And then what was the other one? Collaboration would be another one. I know on my campus, some of our teachers can be not super welcoming, or wanting to be collaborative. They're very into their content in their classroom and don't disrupt them. And so really getting them to collaborate is going to be very important for me. So that way, and getting them to understand the benefits and working with them on a time that is the best time, not necessarily during class time. But getting them to see that. And I know we use a win time, or that 30-minute advisory period. Kids are already broken up into their tier groups, or those 45 groups. And so those would be great times. I know our reading classes, when they go to the library, that would be, and they sit and read, or the reading teachers typically do some sort of, especially our 6th grade teachers, they do some sort of activity after they check out their books. And so that would actually give a little bit more time to work on this lesson. And then another barrier is kids could kind of misinterpret those little phrases on that chart. They may be like, well, this is me and this is who I am. And they don't really see maybe the point of, I need to grow from that level of motivation, and I need to improve on that mindset. And so they might get stuck in these little phrases of, I hope I don't get called on, or I'm terrified, or just let me sleep, anything like that. So another one could be, you have some kids with some learning disabilities, or some physical impairments where they have to sit in a certain spot. And so that may kind of hinder them here, but you could also turn that into, you may have to sit here, but if you didn't have to sit here, where would you like to sit? What does it say about your motivation there? Some resources, external, the kids would have to buy into this. For them to really take it seriously and have that growth mindset of, I'm going to be more self-motivated, and I'm going to think about where I actually sit in the classroom. So really have to have a lot of student buy-in, and then also have the teacher interact with you, or interact in this lesson with you. I talked before about how when I kind of talk about myself as a student and as a learner, my kids tend to buy into things more. They tend to pay attention and engage a little bit more. I think because they see a grown adult being very similar to them in those shoes. And I learned that a lot this year in that reading intervention class that I taught. If they can relate to you, just find something where they don't feel inadequate, then they tend to buy into it a little bit more. And so having the other teacher, the classroom teacher, work with you on this and interact in the lesson as well would be fantastic. Internally, I would need to be self-aware of my own motivations, and be realistic in what really motivates me, what distracts me. As someone with ADD, I'm super distracted by things in my head. And so I would have to really kind of be self-aware of those things, and then open with those things a little bit of, this is what I have to deal with. I procrastinate when I get really stressed about something. Having that pressure right at the end helps. And then I get distracted in class easily, and then demonstrating how I overcome those. And then also not taking too long. I'm long-winded in class, and so our discussions last longer. So doing these guidance lessons in 30 minutes, I would have to be very aware and use timers to kind of help pace things along. So again, this is my guidance lesson on motivation in the classroom. And these lessons come from Carol Miller on Teachers Pay Teachers. Sorry I can't list this. I guess I could probably link it so you could look at them. But she is on Teachers Pay Teachers. So can't wait to hear from y'all.